Well, welcome everyone to another New Fly Fisher live event. I'm your host for tonight's event, Phil Rowley, one of the co-hosts of the show. Do a lot of the Stillwater stuff. And in the fall of 2020, I had the good fortune to travel up into northeastern Saskatchewan into the Narrow Hills area and spend a week up at White Swan Lake Resort. We used that as a great base camp. I was joined by Colin Regier of the Northern Fly Fisherman, a small shop located in Murraysville, Saskatchewan, just a little bit north of Saskatoon. And we had a great time. We had some beautiful weather exploring the region. It was my first time there. I'd heard lots of good things about it, wanted to visit it, and it was just a great way to sort of chalk this one off the bucket list. It's a region that's known for a wide diversity of species, but particularly it's stocked trout fishing rather, for a variety of species, rainbows, browns, etc. We'll get Colin to talk about more of that in a second. It's easily accessible. You can drive there. Lots of accommodation options at White Swan Lake Resort. So tonight I'm joined by Walter Halliday, who's the owner of White Swan Lake Resort, and Colin Regier from the Northern Fly Fisher. So stay tuned as we talk about the great Stillwater opportunities in the region and the different tactics you can use if you ever visit there. And of course, many of these tactics are also easily adaptable to your waters as well. So I hope you enjoy the show and stay with us, and we'll just kick things off.
Ooh, that's a nice sized fish.
I will catch these all day.
That is what you're in for on this episode.
Well, that hopefully gets everybody going. So welcome to Walter and to Colin. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
You're all good? That's Saskatchewan Wi-Fi holding up?
Barely.
And Colin, we'll unmute your mic there.
Yes.
Wow, there you go.
There
Maybe that'll be better. We'll keep you muted. So welcome to you both again. Walter is the owner of White Swan Lake Resort. And Colin is the owner-operator of the Northern Fly Fisherman. And we all got together and spent a pretty good week in, what was it, early October? It's the fall. It was beautiful, I remember.
Yeah, mid-September, maybe end of September.
Yeah, it was just beautiful. So why don't you guys sort of tell us a little, Walter, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be the owner of White Swan Lake Resort?
Well, my wife, Sandra, and I, we own the resort. I outfitted in the area for 20 years, guiding for big game. Know the area well, family cabins here. It's an awesome area, lots of stuff to do. And so we made full circle and we come back and bought the resort after we got done the outfitting career.
You liked it so much you bought it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And Colin, what about yourself? Because you're in Murraysville, right? Well, we're going to tell everybody where Saskatchewan is for those of you who aren't familiar with it, and then all these other little towns and names and cities we're going to talk about in a second.
Yeah, so Martinsville, Saskatchewan, just about 15 minutes north of Saskatoon. Own and operate the Northern Fly Fisherman. It's been a shop that's been in the prairies for over 30 years. I am now the proud third owner of the shop. I've been running it for about 7 years, and here to help out everybody on the prairies to get geared up and get out and enjoy the awesome trout fishing that we do have here.
Okay, that's great. And just to remind everybody that you can certainly, if you've got any specific questions of myself, Walter, or Colin, just to place those questions in the comment section and I can drag them in. We already had Rodrigo joining us from Patagonia, Chile, and Dennis, who I've spent time with fishing as well. Dennis is from Eastern Canada in the Ottawa area. An old Saskatchewan boy is looking forward to this one. So no pressure on you two as far as this goes. So I thought I'd kick it off, though, just to give everybody a little bit of idea what the region looks like, I could just bring in a video clip here. The White Swan intro, where it is. Somebody's got. We're here in second. So we'll just bring this. Let this video roll and sort of give you an idea of what the region looks like.
Welcome everyone, I'm Phil Rowley and welcome to today's show. Today on the New Fly Fisher, we're coming to you from the Narrow Hills area of northern Saskatchewan. We're guests of White Swan Lake Lodge and we're touring the area exploring the local trout lakes. There's a bite in the air, the leaves are turning, trout should be strapping on the feed bags. It's shaping up to be a great show.
Well, there you go. That's a little bit, what I always remember the first time I visited Saskatchewan, the northern regions, Walter, is I think everybody thinks Saskatchewan is a relatively flat prairie province with wheat and other agricultural field-raised products, right, Colin? And it's quite different up there. It's boreal forest, lots of small lakes, not quite the view everybody thinks of Saskatchewan, that's for sure.
Yeah, the Narrow Hills area is it's a lot of hills and valleys. We're about halfway up in the boreal forest of Saskatchewan, so there's lots of bubbles and lots of great fish. And the area here with the hills and the valleys, it created an abundance of lakes in the area. Some of them are stocked, some of them aren't. Our motto here is we got 50 lakes within 50 miles, and you can fish everything from species of trout, walleye, to lake trout. White Swan's one of the farthest south lakes with actual lake trout in it.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to try and share it just to give everybody a sense of where we are. So just bear with me for a second here as I grab Google Maps. I think I shared this here. That's where Saskatchewan is. And then, so Saskatchewan is right here, centrally located in Canada. Alberta to the west and Manitoba to the east. And if I type in White Swan Lake Resort, we should find it. So that'll drill right down. That's probably a little closer, so I'll back it right out, and you can sort of see there where it is and where in relation, as I keep scrolling back and back and back past Prince Albert, Saskatoon. That's where Colin's roughly based, and then right up in this area is White Swan Lake Resort. So just to give everybody a bit of perspective as to where this is, Colin, it was about what we spent just over 2.5 hours to drive up from your neck of the woods to see Walter?
Yeah, it's roughly 2.5 hours from Saskatoon, depending on how fast you drive. Good road all the way. So
yeah, I was impressed with the roads. It's easy to get to. So, right, Walter, anybody can come there with a little car or a larger truck or RV.
Yeah, no, there's no problem. We got the campground here is full of every different recreation vehicle there is.
Yeah, so that you do have that, right, Walter? People have the ability to book a cabin, to have a campsite there. They can have it with full hookup, so they can just have it sort of just a basic campsite. You have a restaurant there. Is there anything else you've got that people should be aware of?
No, that pretty well covers. I mean, the lodge has got a restaurant and lounge and store and whatever people need. We try to keep there. We're pretty well self-contained.
Yeah, I've got a little shot here just to show a little video clip from the lodge itself. I'm just trying to locate it here. I believe this is the one. Got some feedback. On today's show, we're based out of White Swan Lake Resort, roughly 259 kilometers or 160 miles northeast of Saskatoon. The lodge is easily accessible by vehicle, and offers camping, cabins, restaurant, even a small store. It is the perfect base of operations for our Narrow Hills adventure.
White Swan Lake Lodge has been around since the 60s. We took over in 2018. We currently have 5 cabins and 4 rooms available in the lodge for accommodation rental. We have 140 seasonal campsites. Some are wilderness and some are electric. White Swan Lake Lodge offers a full-service restaurant and lounge. It has a miniature store with all the amenities plus gas. We have stock lakes. We have the main lake with lake trout and pike in it. We have walleye lakes all within a 20-30 mile range. We have winter fishing on the ice and snowmobile trails in abundance.
Did a great job there, Walter. I remember you did that in one take. You shamed me because I'm usually a lot more than that, as Colin can attest.
Yeah, I think mine took about 10 takes, maybe more.
Yeah. No, that was good. So so people can clearly see there. You've got the campground facility. We were fortunate enough to stay in one of your cabins. It's a really beautiful base of operations for us. A great place to rest at the end of a long day, and prepare for the next day. That's for sure. So you've got snowmobile activities there in the winter. You've got ice fishing. And of course, the lake trout fishing and the pike right out front as well, right? So something different for somebody who wants a break, perhaps from the trout fishing.
Yeah, they can do whatever they want in the wintertime or summertime. There's ATV trails, snowmobile trailers, hiking, whatever. Which
is great for if there's a group there and some of them like to fish and some of them not so much, right? So they can do there. So I guess when I think of Saskatchewan, I've got to admit, when I first, as I talked to you a little earlier, you always thought Saskatchewan was just prairie and grasslands and wind, but obviously there's not. You guys have been holding out on us for a while. There's some pretty good fishing opportunities in Saskatchewan, and particularly in that Narrow Hills area.
Yeah, I think Saskatchewan's been a very well kept secret for a very long time, and there's a lot of people that would like to keep it that way. But we have a great fisheries program here. Our Saskatchewan Fish Hatchery, a huge shout out to them. Like, they do a phenomenal job. They're hard at work right now putting trout in all the lakes. We have a great stocking program. Many lakes here that have trophy trout fishing possibilities. And in the Narrow Hills Provincial Park, like Walter said, I mean, there's 50 lakes within 50 kilometers of the center of the park, probably 30 of them being stock trout lakes. So lots and lots of possibilities for fishing. There's a number of creeks in the area that have naturally reproducing brook trout too. So it's a good opportunity for anybody looking to come to Saskatchewan to try out fly fishing out here. There's lots of possibilities right in the center of that park.
Yeah, and you've got there's 5 species of trout that they stock in the lakes throughout Saskatchewan and particularly in the Narrow Hills region.
Yeah, so there's brooks, browns, rainbows, and then we have 2 hybrid species as well, tiger trout and splake.
Yeah. And for those that aren't, I think most people are familiar with the tiger trout, that being a brooky brown hybrid that I always say is always angry about that. And then you've got splake, which is a cross between a brook trout and a lake trout, right? Speckle in the lake to make splake. So unique thing. I don't think we chased a few around, but we didn't run into them. But I know we got some brookies and some rainbows. And we spent some time on a small lake that's known for its large brown trout, but it wasn't our day that day. But still a crystal clear body of water to spend time on. So you mentioned Saskatchewan stocking. There's online resources people can use, right, to find out where what bodies of water have the specific trout in them, and particularly if they're planning, obviously, a trip to the Narrow Hills region to figure out what species are in what lakes.
Yeah, there's some good resources online. I mean, certainly check out the Government of Saskatchewan website. Pretty easy Google search. If you look up Saskatchewan stock trout waters, you're probably going to end up finding a list of the stocking programs. So the Government of Saskatchewan lists every stock body of water every year and what they put in them or how many they put in there. So that's a really good resource of finding lakes that are around the province, what's in what lake. There's a number of old resources that are out there. If you take some time and Google, there is a map called Sport Fishing Waters in Narrow Hills Provincial Park. Some of the information in it is outdated. I think some of the lakes still list that they stock kokanee salmon, which was years and years and years ago. But it still gives you a good idea of where the lakes are located in the park and gives you a rough idea of what's in them. So.
Okay, I think I was just searching for the map here, and I'll just share it, and maybe you can tell me if I found the right place. But just bear with me for a second as I grab this, and you can tell me if I've got the right one. Is that the one, Colin?
That is it. You
That
bet.
is it. So yeah, that was just a quick Google search, literally sport fishing in Narrow Hills Provincial Park, and this popped up in a few mouse clicks, and I'm here. So obviously, you can see there's a few numbered lakes in there.
Yeah, I think they list a total of 64. So,
Wow.
and not all of them being lakes. There's a couple of creeks in the area as well. But yeah, it's a phenomenal area just to get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's a question from my buddy Brent Jones there. 50 lakes is a lot of options. Launch trailered boat. Well, we fished out of a trailered boat or boats every lake we visited, didn't we?
Yeah, so if you're specifically after stock trout, there's actually only four out of probably the 30 that have a good boat launch. The remainder would either be an extremely rustic boat launch, or you're hoofing in. So I'd strongly recommend if you're going to the area, float tube or a pontoon boat is really a must.
As a backup. And Walter, you've got a fantastic launch facility at your place, don't you? Because you can handle all manner of boats.
Yeah, no, we've got two pads going in, and it makes it easy.
And Jack's got a question here. What is the size of the stock fish, and how long does it take them to mature? What size are they usually stocking them in there, Colin? The catchable size, or does it vary?
No, they're fingerlings, so they're going to be that 3 to 5 inch range. The crews are out right now, so I mean, they probably hatched in January ish. So they're putting them in right now, probably that 3 inch range. Mature size. Sorry, I can't remember. Was the question mature size or catchable size?
Well, no, how long does it take them to mature? And, from my personal experience, that's always a little bit of the function of the productivity of the lake and the food sources. And I know in a productive environment with lots of good things to eat, like particularly freshwater shrimp or scuds, you can have growth rates of a couple pounds a year, eating healthy on those kind of things. And of course, a lot of the lakes there, you've got the bait fish as well, right? In all the lakes, the trout like eating each other or other small fish, and that really helps them pack on the weight.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, generally speaking, rule of thumb, I'd say 2 to 3 years, but some lakes are less, some lakes are more.
Yeah. Walter, what's the growth rates like of the fish in right where you're located, the lake trout and the pike? They grow pretty fast, or I would think a little slower in the cooler water?
Yeah, White Swan's a deep, cool lake. So, not sure of the exact growth rate, but we've had lake trout caught in that 40-pound range here in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They stock the lake every 2 years as well, but they also every other year they milk the trout and use them for other lakes to go into.
Okay. All right. So, and of course, there are trophies available, aren't there, Colin?
Yeah, some of the lakes have some decent sized fish. You got to work for them, kind of like everywhere. But yeah, there's some decent fish out there to be had. Recent years, I've seen pictures of 25 plus inch fish coming out of some of the lakes up there.
Jeez. When are we going back again? Yeah, because we actually have you on a little video clip here, just where we talked about the different kinds of species in there, so we can just run that to give everybody an idea of that too. As she gets rolling here, my laptop's grinding away. Oh, there we go.
So Colin, as it said, these little bays can be magic, and what we've got here is quite deep out off to our right. It falls off 17 into 20, 25 feet of water, but this shelves up into about 7 feet of water. We've got weeds in here. This is a perfect little plateau, a shoal for these trout to come out of the deep water and feed. So hopefully we can see if this will all come together and we can take a few fish out of here. Oh, well, we could see what Colin's got. Atta boy, on the, get the net for you, my friend. Good fish on the brown. Oh, nice little rainbow. So Colin, you got 5 species of fish they stock in these lakes? You've got rainbows like this, what else?
We've got splake, brook trout, brown trout, and tiger trout.
Well, that's a great mix. And in this lake, we've got brookies and rainbows.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful fish. I'll let you do the honors.
So there you go, Colin. You can tell everybody you caught fish.
It's true. I actually have caught fish.
And I guess we should also make note, because you notice your boat was a little abandoned in one of the shots in the background, and we just switched you over to take better advantage of that bay, because we couldn't really get 2 boats in there. So nobody had fallen out behind it. So, yeah, so we talked about that. So equipment requirements. What does somebody need to bring on a trip to the Narrow Hills as far as let's talk about fly rods first.
Yeah, if you're going up there specifically for trout, I would recommend a 9-foot 6-weight, 10-foot 6-weight. Generally speaking, we're casting larger stuff as far as trout is concerned. We're not casting small dry flies, so generally indicator rigs, full sink lines, streamers, bigger woolly buggers, things like that, which is nice to have that 6-weight. You do have the possibility, like we talked about before, of getting into a decent fish too, so it's nice to have that backbone to bring them in quickly and release them healthy. Yeah. As Walter mentioned before, there's lots of lakes in there with pike and walleye too. So, if you, or even lake trout, if you want to get out for some pike and walleye, toothy critters, some lake trout, 8 weights would be recommended. Or, if you want to chuck some really big stuff, get into 9s and 10s. But, yeah.
Yeah. And we were using primarily 6 weights, 10-foot 6 weights. Because it was fall, so we were doing a lot of fishing in the shallows at that time of the year. That's where the fish come in to stock up for the long, cold winter ahead. And Saskatchewan has a bit of a winter, just like where I am in Alberta.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. How bad was the winter this year, Walter?
Pardon me?
Oh, good. How was winter this year up there?
It was relatively warm. We had lots of ice fishermen up, and we only had basically 2 weeks of cold weather. Yeah,
we were similar here. Same for you, Colin, down where you were?
Yeah, all things considered, it was actually pretty good. It's certainly been a lot worse, but yeah, it wasn't bad. I'm just happy it's spring. So
yeah, I think we all are to get out on the water, which is a good segue into the season. So springtime, Colin, if you're fishing up in the Narrow Hills area, what are your recommendations? What are your thoughts?
Generally speaking, I'm going to try and fish shallower water. kind of pound the banks, looking for structure. I actually just checked satellite imagery yesterday, and it's looking like some of the stock trout lakes that we were fishing are still iced up, but they should be off pretty quick here, I would think. So, generally that's what I'm looking for is shallower water. So floating lines with indicators, hover line, intermediate line. I don't think there's really any it's not necessary to get super deep. As the season progresses, definitely getting into full sink lines, type 3s, type 5s, getting down deeper. A lot of those lakes are deep. I think some of them get into 60-foot range, and they don't look like they're going to be that big, but they get deep. So that full sink line is a must.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical still waters around North America. Right after ice off, that's where the oxygen is in the shallows. That's where you're going to find the fish, and as those shallows warm, become less oxygenated for trout, because they're pretty specific on their oxygen range, what they like. They'll start sliding out into deeper water, off drop-offs into the deeper reaches to find that more oxygenated water. Walter, is the ice still on at White Swan?
Yeah, the ice is still on at White Swan. We're probably 2 weeks away before it'll be off.
Yeah, and you'll probably find those smaller lakes that are a little more exposed probably come off a little quicker than the bigger lakes.
Those lakes, like Colin said, they're breaking up. So a week away probably from some of the stock lakes being open and ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. So I think we got another little video clip here as well that we can talk about, where we talked about the equipment on the show for the fall time frame. So I can just bring that in. And here we go. Hopefully it runs okay. There we go.
Narrow Hills Provincial Park, I like to use a 6-weight rod, anywhere from a 9 to a 10 foot. Line selection should be floating lines for casting indicators, intermediate fly lines casting in close, stripping in streamers or woolly buggers, and right down to a type 5 sink or a faster sinking line to dredge the bottom. Fishing season typically starts in the Narrow Hills mid-May. Once the season opens and ice is off, and generally last spring season is good up until mid-June to late June. Summertime can slow down with the heat of the summer, and then it picks up again in fall up until ice on, generally end of October. About 20 lakes that are all stocked with the 5 species Saskatchewan stocks, featuring tiger trout, rainbow trout, brook trout, brown trout, and splake.
Gee, every time I see that, I just want to go back. So early spring, what are the hatches you've got there? Chironomids, I hope.
Chironomids. If you hit it right, there's caddis hatches and things like that. Of course, damselflies, dragonflies. Kind of the run-of-the-mill Stillwater stuff. Yeah. We do have, a lot of the lakes have very healthy populations of minnows, so streamers can be very effective. Patterns like acrylics or featherwing streamers, black ghosts, gray ghosts, things like that can be very effective too.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people, I cut my teeth Stillwater fly fishing in British Columbia, and a lot of those lakes were what we call monoculture, only rainbow trout in there, and people are always concerned if there was other species of fish in there that outcompete. But since I moved to the other side of the hills, the Rockies, the bait fish are an important component of any Stillwater trout diet and really help them pack on the weight, because they don't compete with trout. They just are food. Fathead minnows, stickleback, brook stickleback, fish like that. So
yeah.
Do you do any deep lining? There was a question there about dangling, which is fishing chironomid pupa patterns vertically in deeper water.
I haven't personally. I mean, generally when I'm full sinking, a lot of times full sink streamer patterns, down or dragonfly nymphs, and generally speaking, when I'm fishing that full sink, it's going to be later in the year, June, July, and trying to get down deep, and things that are big.
Yeah, we do that dangling technique. You should give it a try, Colin. In the deep
I know.
water. Yeah, it's after June. Not after June, but after the lake's turned and mixed, and the fish can, the water chemistry allows them to distribute throughout the lake pretty well. And you've got deep water emergencies. We just anchor and fish 20, 25, 30, 40 feet down and bring those hang them a foot above the bottom and let them sit or dangle. I always say for as long as you can take it. And then if you start to get a little bored and your attention starts to wane, then you can start creeping that fly up. And the addiction with this method is the takes are just heart-stopping. You can do anything you want. You can look at the trees. You can look at each other. You can eat a sandwich. There's no indicator to look at. But do not let go of the rod because they'll just plow it. Walter, it's a great technique, too. I've done for lake trout and walleye, too. Because it's very similar to vertical jigging, right? So it's a great method that your guests could try on the other waters around there, the non-trout waters as well. A little bigger flies, of course.
Yeah, no, the vertical jigging and big thing is patience. Yeah,
that's the biggest thing with many of the Stillwater techniques is just developing the patience to let it all happen and just enjoy the scenery around you and what you're doing because you're not at work. So, and in the fall months we had to, when we were there in the fall, temperatures were dropping. It was crisp in the morning. I remember we had a little bit of ice some mornings on the lakes, which is, as fly fishers in the lakes, we like that. That sort of, kicks those fish in the butt and says it's time to feed. I usually use about a 50-degree Fahrenheit as my gauge. When water temperatures drop below that level, that's when going to really stimulate aggressive feeding and have to really kind of slow down your presentations to be successful with that.
Yeah, for sure. And that time of the year, you're starting to get into the char species or moving in shallow, looking to build reds and get into that spawning mode. So that's a really good time to target those shallow areas too.
Yeah, I think we've got a little clip here from that just talks about slowing things down and catching the different things. I believe this is the one, so I can just fire that up and bring that in.
One of the frustrations of casting and retrieving is line management, because as you bring the line back, it tends to wrap around your feet, around your boat seat, around everything where you don't want it to go. Well, you've got your landing net right here. Your landing net makes a great stripping apron. You just got to place it where the line can be and just literally drop the line into that net. And your line will be nicely gathered and your frustration level will be non-existent. So remember to use your landing net as a stripping basket or a stripping apron to keep your line under control. Whoa, that was a good hit. Stripping them in, just a slow hand twist. Match your retrieve to the water temperatures and the fish activity. So we got a little bit of both here. Well, it's a little bigger one. A little bigger fish this time, which is a good deal. Into the net. He doesn't want to let go. There we go. Nice, well-conditioned Narrow Hills Ring.
Yeah, that was fun. I think what was important about that day, that was our last day, beautiful, just some beautiful conditions, was while I was getting my boat ready, you and cameraman Brett, there was fish right off the dock, wasn't there?
Yeah, they were just cruising right out front. And often I've seen that happen late in fall, especially on that lake. The brook trout tend to congregate right around the dock, which is funny. And don't want to steal your thunder, Phil, but how many boats did we see launch and just zoom past to the other end of the
Oh,
lake?
I was going to mention that.
Yeah, and it's like, well, you could just stay right here.
Well, yeah, because we were, wow. I remember Brett going. I just saw a fish go right off the dock. So you and I got excited about that, and then they was, as we were getting ready, they were rolling right out 50 feet to 100 feet out from the launch, and all we did was launch, take a wide circle around them, not to drive through them, and then just put the wind at our back, anchored up, and within a few minutes, I think we'd each, had a fish grab. So, you don't always have to go to the far end of the lake to get fish. I see a question here for Walter about cabin rentals. I just thought I'd bring it up because how many do you have there, Walter?
We got 5 cabin rentals available, and we have 4 rooms above the lodge. They're a hotel style room with a fridge and TV and stuff like that in them.
Okay, so how many people do the cabins hold? Does it vary, or?
Cabins generally hold 4 adults, 2 bedrooms in each cabin. The larger cabin, it can hold up to 6.
Okay, so with the 4 adults, those are single beds, or is they doubles, or a mixture of both?
Mixture of both, depending on what the group wants. So
yep,
we're pretty flexible that way. My wife Sandra looks after all that stuff. So once you contact us, she'll get back to you and she'll set you up with what you need.
Okay, well that's great. That's great then. That's great. So I remember seeing an earlier question from a friend of mine, Brent, about boat launches and stuff. What watercraft would you recommend in detail, Colin? I know you touched briefly on boats and pontoon boats, but when you go up there for a trip, you bring both, or?
Yeah, typically I'm going to bring both. I run a 14-foot V-hull with a 15-horse Honda on it. Fairly wide, pretty sturdy boat. On a good day, I'll take it out on White Swan, but I'm sure Walter will attest. I'm not getting that out every day. That's a big body of water, and you really want to have a big boat on something like that. But most of the stock trout lakes, the biggest one would maybe be 2.5 kilometers long. And it can get blown up if it's coming out of the west or the east. But for the most part, most of those lakes are pretty small. So, a small John boat like what we were using with you, Phil, 14 foot, even a 12 foot is going to be fine. But like I said, there's really only 4 stock trout lakes that you can launch a boat in, with about maybe another 5 or 6 with native species, just off the top of my head. And most of the lakes in the area, aside from White Swan, are relatively small. So
yeah. Well, the one lake we walked into was the Gem Lakes, right? They were, as an example, that you could actually have a little private campground there if you wanted to, but it was a hike-in belly boat or drag a pontoon boat in.
Yeah, most of the lakes are going to be like that. And speaking of the Gem Lakes, it's a beautiful little area, even just an area to go for a hike. It has become increasingly more popular over the years, but, if you're looking for the Saskatchewan Trout Grand Slam, you can catch all 5 species within the 4 stocked lakes there. So, it's a pretty cool little area. You could hit all of them in a day in a float tube or a canoe.
So it would be a good idea, again, if you want, you can bring that trailer boat or car topper, but have that portable option of an inflatable pontoon boat or a float tube with you as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's just going to open up so many more options for you to get into some really decent lakes. And being that a lot of those lakes are hike in, some of them, they're not that far, but 100, 200 meters off the highway or off a grid road is enough to keep most people out. So it's a really good opportunity to have some solitude and enjoy the Saskatchewan North.
Now, we went into the Gem Lakes, and the trails in there were pretty good. We didn't I guess you didn't want to show me all the secrets while we were there. I think you and Walter were working together on but just slowly introducing me to the area so I wouldn't overload. What were the trails like into the other lakes? Good trail access or bushwhacking, or what are we looking at here?
Yeah, it's a mixture of both. It's a mixture of both. The Gem Lakes, probably you saw the creme de la creme right there of Saskatchewan trails, and on the other end of it, you might have to cut a few logs out of the way to get in, but it varies. So
because the Gem Lakes was my kind of hiking.
Yeah, that's a really easy hike.
Nice landscape path. I like that. And easy to carry the stuff in as well. Okay, so we've talked about lines and we talked about the seasons. And are there any motor restrictions we need to worry about?
Yeah, there are, and I'm sorry I don't know them off the top of my head. I do know that. Specifically, Jade Lake in the Gem Lakes does have a motor restriction. Mm-hmm. I believe it's electric only, but I would highly recommend you check the Saskatchewan angling synopsis for all the lakes just to make sure.
The ones we were on, we were allowed motors to use. So, that was handy to get around. We both had 4 strokes, nice, clean, economical motors to run on those lakes. But the days we went out, for the most part, we could have electric motor fished as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, none of the lakes are that big. So, I mean, you really could get by with an electric on most of them.
And sometimes it's a good thing because it keeps you, you're not jitterbugging all over the place. You're focused, you stay in one area and you work it thoroughly and find the fish, as opposed to being tempted to run all the way this way and then run the other way, and you spend more time running around than you do actually fishing.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, Walter, if someone wanted to make a booking at White Swan, how would they go about that?
You can just go on the website, whiteswanlakeresort.ca. There's a form in there to fill out and hit send, and we'll get back to you and see what we can do to get what you want. Or you can just give us a call at 306-426-2212.
Okay, I think I've got your website already brought up here. So there's the website there. So again, you can see the information about, there's your phone number right then and there, 306-426-2212. The Trails End Restaurant, I remember that. Information on the lodge is here as well. The contact us form you were talking about, that's trying to make me call for some reason. The cabin rental information as well is all there, including some great interior shots, so you can get an idea of what the different cabins have to offer. And, of course, the campsite as well. And you even have boat rentals as well, Walter.
Yeah, we got 3 boats, 3-gun 16-foot boats with 9 Mercs on them for out on the lake. So they're usually pretty good. I mean, if the wind gets up, you need to be cautious of it. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, how big is White Swan in miles, square footage, square miles?
On the Cana Lakes, we call White Swan first lake, second lake, third lake, and fourth lake. So it goes up to 15 kilometers to the northwest, up into the fourth lake. Main trout fishing's on the first lake, Whalen Bay we call it, and then after that it's pike and some trout in the second, third, and fourth lake.
Okay, I'm just going to see. I'll see if I can bring up an image of it again. And see what people are just bringing it up. I'll just scroll it out. So I'm just going to bring this in and share the screen again, just to bring that up. And just bear with me while I'm banging some. Got to find the right tab in my browser here. We brought this image in earlier, but I'll just close this down and back it out a little bit. But I think there's what you're talking about there, Walter?
Yeah, exactly.
Shane, I'm trying to bring them in so they all fit in the screen here, but we can see those. So that's all the chain of lakes, all joined all the way through, basically running north to south.
Yeah, that's it. The water's fairly high right now, so most times you can't get into the fourth lake through the chain lakes. You have to take a trail in, and we have boats in there as well. But there has been people getting through into the fourth lake from the third lake entrance now.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just stop that screen again. So I just saw a question here as well. I can bring in as well about the elevation gains on the hikes in the lakes, Colin.
That's a great question. It's one that I don't know. I wouldn't say very much. I mean, it's they are called narrow hills, and it is hilly, but it is still Saskatchewan. So, I'll just leave it at that.
There's no. It's not like climbing into an alpine lake in the Rockies, is it?
No, it's going to be, I don't know. I'm taking a stab in the dark, maybe 20 meters. It's not going to be much.
Yeah, 60 to maybe 100 feet max in elevation change. Okay, and it's not a cliff-like descent, is it? It'll be a
well, there is one or two that's pretty steep, but I mean, it's not anything super daunting for sure.
Yeah, and I'll just bring that contact information again up for Walter's place, whiteswanlakeresort.ca or 306-426-2212. And Walter, that's a fairly new website because I don't think that was active when we were there. You were still working on it, is that correct?
Yeah, Sandra and one of the local girls here put it together this winter, and we got it up and running, and they both did a pretty good job on it.
No, it looks good. It's got a great explanation of what you have to offer from camping. It's always good when you're booking a cabin that you can see what's inside, especially if you're on a single gender trip where you're all the same and you maybe don't want to all bunk together. No, because I've done some places that you think it's all individual beds and you find out the four of you are sharing 2 queen size beds, which is always stuff. And Colin, how do people get a hold of you?
So you can find my website. It's thenorthernflyfisherman.com. So it's an e-commerce site. It's always a work in progress. So not everything that's in the shop is on there, but you can find some equipment on there. If you have questions, there is a contact us page on the site. Right at the top, email us, top left-hand corner, or you can just email me straight direct. It's the name of the shop. So the Northern Fly Fisherman @gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word. So.
Okay. And you both of you guys are, socially connected, right? Walter, you've got a pretty active little Facebook page to people can follow along and keep appraised of what's going on.
Yeah, no, they can follow us along on social media.
And Colin, of course, I believe you are.
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram. So,
all right. Any other comments or anything else you guys like to add or about the region that we perhaps I missed or you think we should touch about, Walter?
No, I think you pretty well covered it. So it's just a great area.
Yeah, it was.
It's overly busy. White Swan, you can have 30 boats out on the lake, and you never know that they were there. You might see 2 or 3 bobbing around, but.
Yeah, no, it was a beautiful, peaceful place, and of course, in the fall months, for those fly fishers and fishermen that like to hunt as well, you have that great opportunity there to balance both. Correct?
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of hunting available, and for the out of Canada clients, there's outfitters in the area. If they give me a call, I can recommend them. It used to be the competition, but now I give them the 5-star recommendation.
Can't beat them, join them, right?
Exactly.
Colin, anything else? We touched on the seasons, the gear, the species, the boats, the bugs.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. I think the only thing I'd add is there is a lot of nice camping in the area too. If you're looking for, tenting, or you want to pull a trailer up, there's lots of little campgrounds in the area. You can book them all online through the Saskatchewan government website, and there's lots of. I think there's 3 or 4 nice little lakes and they only have 5 or 6 campsites available on them. So they're nice little intimate lakes that they're pretty peaceful and really, really nice to stay at. So if that's what you're kind of into, check it out. It's a great place to camp.
So I remember from our trip there too, to run in if you're in the Narrow Hills Park itself, to get that park pass, right?
Yeah. So you can either get it online, and which would be advisable is get it online and get it early, or you can stop at the main park at Lower Fishing Lake and pick it up.
Yeah, because I remember we had to do that the one day, and we had quite a bit of problem because they were always not there.
Yeah, if you're coming in the shoulder season, it's they're not staffed full time, so it's probably best to just go online. And if you're planning ahead, the Saskatchewan Parks website, you can purchase a pass for the time that you're staying, or an annual pass, and they will mail it out to you. So usually the turnarounds are pretty quick. So.
And the other thing that just popped into my mind as well is licensing. What's an annual license for Saskatchewan?
For Saskatchewan resident is $35-ish. I don't know. It just comes off my credit card automatically every year, so I don't even know.
We can do. Maybe you can do mine too. Can you do mine and then just give it to me when you come by?
And being that I've been a Saskatchewan resident for a long time, I have no idea what an out of province is. Sorry,
yeah,
but
I think mine cost about $60, but you do have the option. I think depending on the regions, you can buy not an annual pass. You can buy different rate, like weekly or daily passes too. I know when I travel up north, I have to get the full annual one, but south of a little lower down, there's some different license opportunities, and again, they're all readily accessible off the internet. A quick search for Saskatchewan fishing license, and all can be done for online too, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. No, Blake just made a point. $37.
$37. There it is. I assume that includes GST and PST too.
Yeah, all the taxes. Question here from Blake as well. Needs his new Stillwater rod. What would be? I'll let you handle this one as a because I know we're a little different.
Oh. Okay, well, I mean, Blake, I fish with 10-foot rods out of my boat for Stillwaters. I really like them. I like them for casting indicators, especially in the summer months when you start getting into longer presentations under that indicator. That extra foot helps to turn that over. It's also really nice in the flow tube or a pontoon boat to get an extra foot off the water. There are a couple of manufacturers that make 10-foot 6-weights out there. Maybe get in touch with me, Blake, and we can I can lead you down a road there.
Yeah, and I like just to echo that. I like with the 10-foot rods, beautiful roll cast for working with indicators, because it's probably the most tangle-prone system we use in lakes. So it only comes out of the water on that final push to a stop. So no excessive overhead casting, which can lead to frustrations at times. And of course, you can steer and control fish as well. So if fish is going near your anchor rope, you've got that extended reach. Good for the hang. I think if you're going to get into Stillwater fishing, probably a minimum 9.5 footer, preferably 10. And I know in Europe, in England, they're even using 11. So almost. Well, you were using a switch rod for part of
Yeah,
your
I was just gonna say and I've been out already this year with it. I've got a 10.5 foot 4-5 weight switch, which is equivalent to like a 6 or 7 weight single hand rod, and I absolutely love it. Just for that example you mentioned, Phil, to roll cast out, especially on an indicator rig, and especially when those, when we're fishing chironomids or balanced leeches 10 feet, 15 feet below an indicator, that extra 1.5 feet really helps in just getting that momentum out of the water, getting it out. And then also on that hook set, and then everything else you mentioned, steering and everything.
Yeah, well, just I think if you're going to get into lake fishing, the longer rods are definitely the way to go. So okay, so we covered a lot of different subjects. Walter, again, I asked you once, but anything else that just might have popped up that you'd like to say, or that I might have missed, or not paid enough attention to?
No, I think we got it covered. Like, thank the two of you for being up here last year, and hope everybody had a good time. Oh,
we did have a great time, and really thank you for letting us have it. You gave us one of the more deluxe cabins. That was pretty nice. We could watch television at night while Colin cooked for us, and Brett. Yeah, so that was great. Okay, so again, thanks to Colin and Walter for joining us, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. If you came in partway through this, don't worry. This will be recorded, and once this live broadcast shuts down, it will be available on both the New Fly Fisher Facebook page and YouTube channel, so you can watch it again and again and again if there's some specific point you'd like to run over. The contact information for both Walter and Colin will be on the recording as well. And if you haven't already subscribed to the New Fly Fisher YouTube page, please give it a consideration. There's lots of great videos there from destinations such as the show we did in the Narrow Hills region out of Walter's resort, or any other great destinations. There's lots of great instructional videos there as well on a wide range of fly fishing topics. And of course, go over to the Facebook page and give it a like as well if you haven't already, so we'll stay in touch. So thanks everybody for watching and spending part of your evening with us. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next live broadcast.